Hey everyone, good morning. It feels so good to be back home. You know, it's been quite a while since I photographed the local wildlife here at home. I've taken you along with me on some pretty fun adventures lately. I took you along with me on a week-long wildlife photography adventure in Florida, and then I headed to the opposite end of the continent and did some wildlife photography along coastal California. Before that, I was in another area photographing mule deer. Before that, great gray owls. It's just been so crazy for the last couple months. I actually haven't photographed the local wildlife in a long time, and this feels like a new area to me. So I wanted to do something a little bit different today. I wanted to take you along with me as I scout out this area to find what wildlife is around and what wildlife I can potentially photograph. Today, as I go throughout these areas scouting, I'm going to share with you some of my top tips, some of the top things that I do when I am scouting out new areas or areas that I just haven't been to for a while. And these will be things that you can do in almost any landscape when you're looking for wildlife. I've got so much information to share with you today, and I don't want to draw on unnecessarily, so I'll be putting a lot of these tips on the screen throughout the video, so make sure you're paying attention so you can read those tips as I go throughout the video today. Well, without just rambling on, let's get going. Time's a waste, and let's see what wildlife we can find today. You know, I've made other videos in the past just dedicated to how to find wildlife. I've gone over so many different techniques of how to find animals and areas that maybe you've never even been in before, things like that. I've shared with you my favorite method for finding wildlife, which is learning about a specific species, its behavior, habits, habitat, and then how to actually go out and find it. Today's video is going to be different as we're not looking for one specific species. We're simply combing through these different areas. I'll take you along with me on today, and I'm showing you how to find as much wildlife as possible in those areas. So I won't be spending a lot of time with each species as I find them, trying to get these amazing pictures or whatever. That is, unless I find something very unusual or out of the ordinary. We're simply just combing through these areas, looking for as much as we can. And again, these techniques that I share with you can be used in really any habitat that you pass through. So let's keep going, see what we can find. So anytime I'm scouting a new area or passing through an area that I haven't been to for a while, or even if I'm headed somewhere, I always look on my way from point A to point B. I look through those areas as well. And something I always make sure that I know is what wildlife actually live in those areas. That way I know what I'm actually looking for and the best times of day to look for those animals. So I'm walking this stretch of river this morning for a number of reasons. First of all, this is a great time of year to be looking for owls. Because of the river here, the water source, there's a lot thicker tree cover here than in the surrounding areas. So this will give habitat for the owls to roost up, to perch from when they're relaxing or sleeping or whatever, and also when they're hunting. Because of the water source here, this provides water for more numerous prey species than in other areas, and for the owls themselves. And it's early enough in the morning still where we have a good chance of still hearing some owls call. And so that's why I wanted to walk this stretch of river. There are also other indicators that I'll be looking for some other species, but we'll get into that in a minute. Making my way along the trail, I soon found numerous owl pellets littering the ground underneath a tree. No sign of any owl, but these were fresh pellets and a great indicator that there's not only an owl in the area, but that it visits this tree often. These were very large pellets. I can tell they're from a great horned owl based on the size. Moving on, I began to check where the water was frozen along the river. As I'm walking the river, there's different conditions that I'm looking for and taking note of. For example, what areas are frozen, what areas are unfrozen and stagnant, and what areas have ripples or small rapids on them. Different wildlife use these different stretches of the river during winter time. For example, river otters oftentimes will haul out onto these frozen areas, onto the ice, and eat a fish or a bird that they may have caught. So I'm looking for signs of river otters in these areas, holes in the ice, or some remains of some animal left on the ice. That's a good indicator that there might be river otters in the area. Also, the stagnant, unfrozen areas are utilized by many species of ducks to feed in. And if it's unfrozen, that means I can set up my floating blind and hopefully get some pictures of those ducks. The areas with the ripples or the small rapids are used by other species of ducks to feed in, also by American dippers and many other birds. So all of these conditions along the river, I'm just taking note of them and looking for the different indications that there might be wildlife in the area. Let's keep going. Knowing animal behavior and where they're likely to be during certain times of the year can drastically increase your chances of actually finding something. My next stop were some fairly nearby cliffs. During winter, the snow will push certain animals down to lower terrain where they usually don't spend much time the rest of the year. I took some time with my binoculars spotting the mountainside for mule deer, bighorn sheep, and Rocky Mountain goats. I saw a lot of mule deer on some lower hillsides, still mostly free of snow, and it didn't take long before I found some goats higher up in some rocky terrain. I'm looking along the Stretcher River right now. This is a lot different from the river this morning. It's a lot faster moving, a lot more shallow. It's not frozen at all. This is going to be a prime area to look for birds like American dippers, different species of ducks. There's going to be a lot of animals that you'll be able to see tracks of going along the river, using it as a water source or looking for prey along the river. So let's keep an eye out, see what we can find. It took me a little longer than expected, but after walking the river for a while, I finally came across some American dippers. These little songbirds are fairly unique in that they dive into the water to get small fish, insects, and fish eggs. After finding 3 different dippers, I was making my way back to my vehicle when I spotted a bald eagle in a nearby tree. These iconic birds migrate into this area every winter and are a joy to photograph. I watched him for a bit and saw 2 other eagles flying off in the distance in a matter of 30 minutes or so. What an amazing day of wildlife scouting this has been. We've been able to find so much. I found something really unexpected back here. I was driving along the road, just looking for all the different wildlife indicators that we've talked about today. And I noticed a tree hole in this tree back here, and there was something off about it. So I pulled over. My first thought was, oh great, there's an owl in there. I got binoculars on it, and there's something furry in there. I can't tell what it is. I can see it breathing, but it's definitely fur, not feathers. So definitely not an owl based on the color of the fur and the fact that it's in a tree hole. My guess is it's a raccoon, but I can't tell right now. So I'm going to stay here for a little bit, see if I can see what it is. So in a single day of scouting through this area that I really haven't combed through in quite some time, not only were we able to see a lot of fun wildlife, but also come away with a lot of indicators telling us that there are other animals, other species in this area that we can photograph. So I'm going to go back, make some plans to actually photograph these individual species that we've been able to identify, and hopefully come away with some really fun pictures and some more fun adventures to be able to share with you in the coming weeks. So let's actually take a look at the different leads that we were able to come away with today. This was such a fantastic day of wildlife scouting. I am so excited to get out with the different animals. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you've learned something from this video. As I mentioned before, you need to go watch those other videos on how to find wildlife if you haven't seen them already, because what we talked about today and those other videos, they all go together and mesh very well and give you an overall view of how to find wildlife in an area that's brand new to you, an area you haven't been in for a while, or even just areas that you're passing through. This is a topic that we're just barely starting to scratch the surface on, and a topic that I love bringing up in my wildlife workshops. It's something that we talk about quite frequently. So on that note, if this is something you enjoy learning about, join me out in the field on a wildlife workshop, whether it's a private workshop or on one of my Alaska bear workshops this summer. I've got a couple spots left open on one of my workshops this summer, so be sure to sign up for that, and hopefully we'll see you out there. Thanks so much for following along with me this week. I can't wait to see what's hiding back here in the tree behind me and be able to share that with you as well. I hope you've enjoyed this week's video. Thanks for following along. We'll see you next time.